Right now, as you hear these words, your brain is doing something remarkable. It is actively working against you. A 2023 study from the National Institutes of Health revealed something that should terrify every ambitious person alive. The average human brain operates at approximately 47% of its measurable capacity. Not because of genetics, not because of age, because of 12 missing inputs that no one ever taught you about. But here is the part that will keep you up tonight if you let it sink in. You have felt this deficit your entire life. You just never had a name for it. That fog that settles behind your eyes by 11 in the morning. The name you heard 3 seconds ago and already cannot recall. The paragraph you just read that vanished before you finished the page. The decision you made at 4 in the afternoon that you regretted by 4:15. You blamed stress. You blamed sleep. You blamed getting older, working harder, having too much on your plate. You were wrong. Your brain is not broken. Your brain is not weak. Your brain is not declining. Your brain is starving. And it has been starving for years, possibly decades, waiting for 12 specific inputs that it needs to function at full capacity. Inputs that 97% of people will never discover. Inputs that separate the foggy, forgetful, struggling majority from the rare individuals who seem to think faster, remember more, and perform at levels that appear almost superhuman. In the next 2 hours, you are going to learn exactly what those 12 inputs are. You will understand the neuroscience behind why your brain has been operating in emergency mode. And you will receive a complete 30-day protocol that has been shown to increase cognitive performance by up to 40% in peer-reviewed clinical trials. This is not motivation. This is not inspiration. This is a technical manual for the most powerful machine you will ever own. Your brain has been waiting for this moment. Let us begin. This is not motivational fluff. This is not another list of tips you will forget by tomorrow. What you are about to hear is a system, a science-backed, protocol-driven system designed for one type of person: the knowledge worker, the professional, the person who depends on their mind to earn a living, make decisions, and stay ahead. If that is you, then the next 19,000 words could be the most valuable thing you hear this year. Let us begin with an uncomfortable truth. You have probably felt it. That fog, that heaviness behind your eyes when you sit down to work. The feeling that your thoughts are moving through wet cement. You read a paragraph and realize you absorbed nothing. You sit in a meeting and forget what was said 2 minutes ago. You finish a workday feeling mentally drained, but unable to point to anything significant you actually accomplished. This is not normal. This is not just how brains work. This is a signal. Your brain is telling you that something is missing. And what is missing is not more caffeine. It is not another productivity app. It is not working harder or sleeping less or pushing through. What is missing is a fundamentally different approach to how you treat the organ that controls everything you do. Here is what most people do not understand. Your brain is not a fixed machine. It is a living, adaptive system. Every single day, it is either growing stronger or growing weaker based on the inputs you give it. There is no neutral. There is no maintenance mode. You are either building cognitive capacity or losing it. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. And for decades, the scientific community believed that neuroplasticity was something that only happened in children. They thought the adult brain was essentially locked in place. Whatever you had by age 25 was what you were stuck with. They were wrong. In 2013, a landmark study from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology changed everything. Researchers led by Dr. Li-Huai Tsai discovered that adult brains retain far more plasticity than anyone had previously believed. They found that with the right stimulation, the adult brain could form new neural connections, strengthen existing pathways, and even generate new neurons in specific regions like the hippocampus, which is the memory center of the brain. This was not a small finding. This rewrote the textbook. And here is what it means for you. Your cognitive ceiling is not fixed. Your ability to focus, remember, learn, and think strategically is not set in stone. It is trainable. It is upgradeable, but only if you know how to train it. The problem is that most people are accidentally training their brains in the wrong direction. Think about what the average professional does every single day. They wake up to an alarm that interrupts their sleep cycle. They reach for their phone before their feet touch the floor. They scroll through notifications, emails, and news headlines, flooding their brain with fragmented information before it has even fully woken up. They skip breakfast or grab something processed. They sit for hours without movement. They bounce between tasks, tabs, and conversations, never allowing their attention to settle on any one thing for more than a few minutes. And then they wonder why they feel foggy. They wonder why they cannot concentrate. They wonder why they feel mentally older than their actual age. Here is the brutal math. The average knowledge worker checks their email 74 times per day. That is according to a 2022 study from the University of California, Irvine. The same study found that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain focus after a single interruption. Do the math. 74 interruptions, 23 minutes each. That is more than 28 hours of lost focus per day. Obviously, that is impossible, which tells you something important. Most people never reach full focus at all. They spend their entire workday in a state of partial attention, never fully engaged, never fully recovered, operating in a cognitive no man's land where real thinking cannot happen. This is the brain you are wasting. Not because you are lazy, not because you are incapable, but because no one ever taught you how the brain actually works and how to work with it instead of against it. Now let me show you what the science says about people who do this differently. Stanford University's neuroscience department conducted a 10-year longitudinal study on cognitive performance in high-achieving professionals. They tracked over 400 executives, engineers, and scientists, measuring everything from memory retention to decision-making speed to creative problem-solving ability. What they found was striking. The top performers, the people in the 99th percentile of cognitive function, did not have dramatically different genetics. They did not have higher baseline IQs. What they had were different daily habits. Specific, consistent, brain-building activities that they performed not occasionally, but every single day. The researchers identified 12 categories of activity that separated elite cognitive performers from everyone else. 12 inputs that, when combined, created a compounding effect on brain function over time. Here is what the average professional does. They treat their brain like a resource to be spent. They drain it during the day and hope it recovers overnight. They think of mental energy as a fixed tank that empties and refills automatically. Here is what elite performers do differently. They treat their brain like a muscle to be built. They do not just use it, they train it. They follow specific protocols designed to strengthen neural pathways, increase neurotransmitter efficiency, and expand cognitive capacity over time. The difference in outcomes is staggering. After 5 years, the average group showed a 12% decline in working memory and a 9% decline in processing speed. Normal age-related decline, according to traditional models. The elite group showed something different. They showed a 14% increase in working memory and an 11% increase in processing speed. Not just maintenance, improvement. They were getting cognitively sharper while their peers were getting duller. Same age, same professions, same external demands. Radically different trajectories. The only variable was how they treated their brain. And this is where you need to pay close attention. Because the 12 activities that separated these groups are not complicated. They are not expensive. They do not require special equipment or advanced degrees. They require only 2 things: knowledge of what they are, and consistency in doing them. That is exactly what this book is going to give you. Over the next 9 chapters, you are going to learn each of the 12 brain-boosting activities in detail. You will understand the neuroscience behind why each one works. You will see specific protocols, exact durations, and optimal timing. You will learn how to stack these activities into a 30-day transformation system that fits into your existing life. But more importantly, you are going to understand something that changes everything. Your brain is not your limitation. Your brain is your greatest leverage point. Every decision you make, every skill you learn, every relationship you build, every dollar you earn flows through this 3-pound organ between your ears. When your brain operates at 50%, your entire life operates at 50%. When you unlock the other half, everything changes. You think faster. You remember more. You solve problems that used to paralyze you. You make decisions with clarity instead of confusion. You show up to your work, your relationships, and your goals with a mind that is sharp, energized, and fully operational. This is not a metaphor. This is neuroscience, and it is available to you starting right now. Here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. The 12 activities you are about to learn are not suggestions. They are not nice-to-haves. They are the foundational inputs that determine whether your brain thrives or declines over the next decade of your life. Miss one, and you leave a gap. Miss several, and you create a pattern of cognitive erosion that compounds year after year. But implement all 12, even in small daily doses, and you create something powerful. A system of cognitive compound interest that pays dividends for the rest of your life. The choice is yours, and you are making it right now, whether you realize it or not. In the next chapter, we begin with the two most foundational activities of all: physical movement and sleep architecture. These are the inputs that determine how much raw material your brain has to work with every single day. Most people get both of these wrong. They exercise inconsistently or not at all. They sleep erratically and wonder why they wake up tired. They have no idea that there are specific protocols backed by decades of research from institutions like Harvard Medical School and the National Institutes of Health that can transform both of these activities from random habits into precision brain-building tools. When you understand how physical movement triggers the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that literally grows new brain cells, you will never see exercise the same way again. When you understand how sleep architecture determines whether today's learning becomes permanent or gets erased, you will never waste another night. That is what is waiting for you in Chapter 2. Your brain has been waiting for this. Let us give it what it needs. Chapter 2. The two non-negotiables: physical movement and sleep architecture. Every single night, your brain cleans itself. While you sleep, a system called the glymphatic network activates and flushes toxic waste products out of your neural tissue. This includes beta amyloid, the protein that accumulates in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. Miss one night of quality sleep, and that cleaning process gets interrupted. Miss several nights, and those toxins start to build up. Your thinking slows. Your memory fragments. Your ability to focus deteriorates in ways you cannot see but absolutely feel. And here is what makes this critical. The average professional is sleeping 6 hours and 12 minutes per night. That is according to a 2023 study from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The brain requires 7 to 9 hours to complete its full cleaning and consolidation cycle, which means most people are starting every single day with a brain that is literally dirty, clogged with metabolic waste that should have been cleared overnight. And they wonder why they need 3 cups of coffee just to feel normal. This chapter is about the two activities that form the foundation of everything else: physical movement and sleep. Get these wrong, and nothing else in this book will work properly. Get these right, and you create the conditions for every other brain-boosting activity to deliver maximum impact. Let us start with movement. Your brain weighs approximately 3 pounds. It represents about 2% of your total body weight, but it consumes 20% of your total energy. It is the most metabolically demanding organ in your entire body, and it depends on one thing more than almost anything else: blood flow. When blood flows to your brain, it carries oxygen, glucose, and critical nutrients that neurons need to function. When blood flow decreases, cognitive performance decreases with it. This is not theory. This is basic physiology. Now here is where physical exercise becomes essential. When you move your body, your heart rate increases. Blood flow to the brain increases. But that is just the beginning. Something far more important happens at the molecular level. In 1995, researchers at the University of California, Irvine, discovered a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. They found that BDNF acts like fertilizer for the brain. It supports the survival of existing neurons, encourages the growth of new neurons, and strengthens the connections between them. Here is the breakthrough. Physical exercise is the single most powerful way to increase BDNF production in the human brain. A 2011 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showed that just 1 year of moderate aerobic exercise increased the size of the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, by 2%. That reversed approximately 2 years of age-related shrinkage. The participants were not athletes. They were adults between 55 and 80 years old who walked for 40 minutes, 3 times per week. Walking, 40 minutes, 3 times per week. That was enough to physically grow the memory center of the brain. Now let me show you what happens when you do not exercise. The average sedentary adult loses approximately 0.5% of hippocampal volume every year after age 50. That adds up. Over 20 years, that is 10% of your memory hardware gone. Not because of disease, not because of genetics, because of inactivity. Here is what the average professional does. They sit for 8 to 12 hours per day. They tell themselves they will exercise when they have more time. They treat movement as optional, something to fit in after everything else is done. And then they watch their cognitive capacities slowly erode, year after year, wondering why they feel mentally slower than they used to. Here is what elite performers do differently. They treat physical movement as a non-negotiable cognitive investment. Not because they want to look good, because they understand that their brain literally cannot operate at full capacity without it. The data backs this up completely. A 2019 meta-analysis from the British Journal of Sports Medicine reviewed 39 studies with over 300,000 participants. The conclusion was unambiguous. Regular physical activity reduced the risk of cognitive decline by 28% and the risk of dementia by 30%. But here's the part most people miss. You do not need to become a marathon runner. You do not need to spend hours in the gym. The research shows that the brain benefits plateau after a certain point. What matters is consistency and hitting specific thresholds. Here is your protocol for Activity 1. For optimal brain benefits, aim for 150 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise per week. That breaks down to roughly 30 minutes, 5 times per week, or 45 minutes, 3 to 4 times per week. Moderate means you can hold a conversation, but you are slightly out of breath. Walking briskly, cycling, swimming, or dancing all qualify. If you want to accelerate results, add 2 sessions of resistance training per week. A 2020 study from the University of Sydney found that resistance exercise produces unique neuroprotective effects that aerobic exercise alone does not provide. It increases levels of IGF-1, a growth factor that supports neuron health and synaptic plasticity. The timing matters too. Exercising in the morning, within 2 hours of waking, has been shown to enhance focus and cognitive performance for up to 12 hours afterward. This is because morning exercise optimizes your cortisol rhythm and sets your circadian clock for the day. Here is your minimum effective dose. 20 minutes of brisk walking every single day. That alone will outperform 90% of the population and deliver measurable improvements in memory, focus, and processing speed within 30 days. Now let us talk about sleep, because this is where most professionals are making their biggest mistake. Sleep is not downtime. Sleep is construction time. During deep sleep, your brain consolidates memories from the day, moving information from short-term storage in the hippocampus to long-term storage in the cortex. During REM sleep, your brain integrates new learning with existing knowledge, forming creative connections that are impossible during waking hours. Skip sleep, and you skip construction. The things you learned yesterday never get properly stored. The insights you needed never get formed. You wake up tomorrow having lost most of what you worked so hard to acquire. Here is the research that should alarm you. A 2017 study from the University of California, Berkeley, led by Dr. Matthew Walker, found that just one night of poor sleep reduced the hippocampus's ability to encode new memories by 40%. One night, 40%. Think about what that means. You could study for hours, attend important meetings, have critical conversations, and lose nearly half of that information because you slept poorly the night before. Not because you did not try to remember, because your brain physically could not encode it. And it gets worse. Sleep deprivation does not just impair memory formation. It impairs judgment, emotional regulation, and decision-making. A 2015 study from Harvard Medical School showed that sleep-deprived individuals made riskier decisions, were less accurate in complex problem-solving, and showed reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center. This is why sleep is not a luxury. It is a cognitive necessity. But here is what most people get wrong. They focus only on sleep quantity, not sleep quality. They think 8 hours is 8 hours, regardless of when they go to bed, how many times they wake up, or how much deep sleep they actually get. That is a mistake. Sleep quality is determined by sleep architecture, and sleep architecture depends on specific behaviors that most people violate every single night. Here is your protocol for activity 2. First, set a consistent sleep and wake time. Your brain craves rhythm. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, your master circadian clock, synchronizes hundreds of biological processes based on when you sleep and wake. Irregular schedules confuse this system and reduce sleep quality even if total hours remain the same. Aim for the same bedtime and wake time, plus or minus 30 minutes, 7 days per week. Second, create a 90-minute wind-down buffer before bed. This means no screens, no intense work, no difficult conversations. Your brain needs time to transition from waking mode to sleep mode. Reading, gentle stretching, or relaxation practices all support this transition. Blue light from screens suppresses melatonin and delays sleep onset by an average of 30 minutes, according to research from Brigham and Women's Hospital. Third, optimize your sleep environment. Your bedroom should be dark, quiet, and cool. The ideal temperature for sleep is between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Even small amounts of light can reduce melatonin production by up to 50%. Use blackout curtains and remove or cover any light-emitting devices. Fourth, front-load your caffeine. Caffeine has a half-life of approximately 6 hours. That means half the caffeine from your afternoon coffee is still circulating in your brain at midnight. For most people, cutting off caffeine by 2 in the afternoon allows sufficient clearance before sleep. Fifth, limit alcohol. Many people use alcohol to fall asleep, but alcohol fragments sleep architecture, reducing both deep sleep and REM sleep. A 2018 study in the journal JMIR Mental Health found that even moderate alcohol consumption reduced sleep quality by 24%. Here is the transformation that happens when you get both of these activities right. After 30 days of consistent exercise and optimized sleep, most people report significant improvements in mental clarity, memory recall, and sustained focus. After 90 days, those improvements become your new baseline. After 1 year, you will operate at a cognitive level that your current self would not recognize. These are not exaggerations. These are the documented outcomes from longitudinal research across multiple institutions. Movement builds the brain. Sleep consolidates and cleans it. Together, they form the foundation that everything else depends on. But here is what you need to understand. Movement and sleep are necessary, but they are not sufficient. They create the conditions for cognitive enhancement. But to actually sharpen your memory, accelerate your learning, and upgrade your intelligence, you need specific inputs that target those systems directly. That is exactly what we cover in the next chapter. Nutrition and hydration. Most people have no idea that their brain is made of 60% fat, that specific nutrients directly influence neurotransmitter production, or that even mild dehydration can reduce cognitive performance by 25%. The foods you eat and the fluids you drink are not just fuel. They are building materials. And in Chapter 3, you are going to learn exactly which materials your brain needs, in what amounts, and at what times to operate at peak capacity. Your foundation is set. Now it is time to build. Chapter 3. Feeding your brain. Nutrition and hydration that sharpen cognition. Your brain is 60% fat, not muscle, not protein, fat. Specifically, it is built from a type of fat called phospholipids, which form the membrane of every single neuron in your head. When you eat, you are not just fueling your brain. You are literally rebuilding it. The nutrients you consume today become the physical structure of your brain tomorrow. And here's the problem. The average American diet contains less than 20% of the omega-3 fatty acids the brain needs to maintain optimal structure. According to a 2021 report from the National Institutes of Health, over 90% of Americans are deficient in omega-3s. 90%. This is not a minor issue. This is a structural crisis happening inside the skulls of nearly everyone you know. In this chapter, you're going to learn exactly how nutrition and hydration affect cognitive performance at the cellular level. You will understand which specific nutrients your brain requires, which foods deliver them, and which dietary patterns are silently eroding your mental capacity. More importantly, you will walk away with a clear protocol that you can implement starting with your very next meal. Let us begin with the most critical nutrient your brain needs: omega-3 fatty acids. There are three main types of omega-3s. ELA, which comes from plant sources like flaxseed and walnuts. EPA, which comes primarily from fatty fish. And DHA, which also comes from fatty fish and is the most important for brain function. DHA makes up approximately 25% of the total fat in your brain. It is concentrated in the synapses, the connection points between neurons where all communication happens. When DHA levels are low, synaptic membranes become rigid and less efficient. Neurotransmitters cannot pass signals as quickly. Cognitive processing slows down. A 2017 study from the University of Oxford followed over 500 children for 16 weeks. Half received DHA supplements. Half received a placebo. The children who received DHA showed significant improvements in reading ability and behavior, with the lowest performers showing the greatest gains. Their brains literally functioned better when given the building material they had been missing. Now here's what happens in adults. A 2022 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease reviewed 34 studies involving over 40,000 participants. The researchers found that higher omega-3 intake was associated with a 20% reduction in cognitive decline risk and a significantly lower incidence of dementia. The protective effect was strongest for DHA specifically. This is not about preventing disease decades from now. This is about how your brain functions today. When your neurons have adequate DHA, signals travel faster. Memory and coding improves. Focus becomes easier to sustain. When DHA is deficient, everything slows down. You feel foggy but cannot explain why. You struggle to concentrate but blame it on stress. The real issue is that your brain is literally built from inferior materials. Here is your protocol for omega-3 optimization. Aim for at least 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per day. The most reliable source is fatty fish. Salmon, mackerel, sardines, and anchovies are the highest. 2 to 3 servings per week will typically meet this threshold. If you do not eat fish, a high-quality fish oil or algae-based omega-3 supplement is essential, not optional. Now let us talk about the second category of brain-critical nutrients: antioxidants. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's oxygen. This high oxygen consumption creates a byproduct called reactive oxygen species, also known as free radicals. In small amounts, free radicals serve important signaling functions. In excess, they damage neurons, destroy synaptic connections, and accelerate brain aging. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals before they can cause damage. They are your brain's defense system against oxidative stress, and most people are not getting nearly enough of them. A 2019 study from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago followed over 900 older adults for an average of 7 years. The researchers found that participants who consumed the highest amounts of flavonoid-rich foods, a category of antioxidants found in berries, leafy greens, and tea, had a 48% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease compared to those who consumed the least. 48%. From food choices alone. The most powerful brain-protective antioxidants include flavonoids from berries, polyphenol from dark chocolate and green tea, and carotenoids from colorful vegetables like spinach, kale, and sweet potatoes. These compounds do not just prevent damage. Research from the Salk Institute has shown that certain flavonoids actively promote neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons, in the hippocampus. Here is what the average person eats: processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and meals that are beige, brown, and white. Low in fiber, low in antioxidants, high in inflammatory compounds that accelerate cognitive decline. Here is what elite performers eat differently. They prioritize color. Every meal includes at least 2 different colored vegetables or fruits. They treat antioxidant-rich foods not as side dishes, but as essential medicine for their most important organ. The transformation is measurable. A 2018 study from the University of Illinois found that participants who increased their intake of lutein, an antioxidant found in leafy greens, showed improved neural efficiency on cognitive tasks within just 4 months. Their brains were literally doing more with less effort. Here is your protocol for antioxidant optimization. Aim for at least 5 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruit per day, with an emphasis on variety and color. Include dark leafy greens daily. Add berries at least 4 times per week. Incorporate green tea or dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao as regular parts of your routine. Now let us address the nutrient that most people completely ignore: water. Your brain is approximately 75% water. Every chemical reaction that supports cognition, every electrical signal that passes between neurons, every process that creates thoughts, memories, and decisions depends on adequate hydration. And here is the data that should concern you. A 2018 study from the Georgia Institute of Technology found that losing just 2% of body water, a level of dehydration that most people do not even notice, reduced cognitive performance by up to 25%. Attention, memory, and motor coordination all declined significantly. 2%. You can lose 2% of body water in a few hours of normal activity without drinking anything. By the time you feel thirsty, you are already cognitively impaired. The researchers found that dehydration had the greatest impact on tasks requiring attention and executive function. These are exactly the cognitive capacities that knowledge workers depend on most. Focus, decision-making, complex problem-solving, all degraded by something as simple as not drinking enough water. A separate study from the University of East London found that drinking water before cognitive tests improved performance by up to 14% compared to participants who did not drink. The effect was most pronounced in people who reported feeling thirsty. Their brains were running on empty without them knowing it. Here is what the average professional does. They drink coffee in the morning, forget about water for hours, maybe have a soda or more coffee in the afternoon, and consume most of their fluids at dinner. They spend the majority of their workday in a state of mild chronic dehydration, wondering why their focus fades by 2 in the afternoon. Here is what elite performers do differently. They treat hydration as a scheduled cognitive intervention. They know that optimal brain function requires consistent fluid intake throughout the day, not catch-up drinking at night. Here is your protocol for hydration optimization. Aim for a minimum of half your body weight in ounces of water per day. If you weigh 160 pounds, that means 80 ounces or approximately 2.5 liters. Start your day with 16 ounces of water before anything else. Your brain has been without hydration for 7 to 8 hours. It needs fluid before it needs caffeine. Distribute your water intake evenly throughout the day. Set reminders if necessary. Keep water visible on your desk. By the time you feel thirsty, you have already lost performance. The goal is to stay ahead of thirst, not respond to it. Limit diuretics like coffee and alcohol, which increase water loss. For every cup of coffee, add an additional 8 ounces of water to compensate. Now let me show you what happens when you combine optimized nutrition and hydration. A 2020 study from the University of Leiden in the Netherlands tested the effects of a comprehensive dietary intervention on cognitive function. Participants followed a protocol that included omega-3 supplementation, increased vegetable and fruit intake, and structured hydration. After just 12 weeks, they showed significant improvements in processing speed, working memory, and attention compared to the control group. 12 weeks. That is all it took to measurably upgrade brain function through nutrition and hydration alone. And here is the compounding effect. When your brain has optimal building materials and adequate hydration, everything else works better. Exercise produces more BDNF. Sleep consolidates memories more efficiently. Learning sticks faster. Focus lasts longer. Nutrition and hydration are not just 2 more activities on the list. They are multipliers. They amplify the impact of everything else you do for your brain. But there is something these physical inputs cannot provide on their own. They build the hardware, but your brain also needs software upgrades. It needs activities that challenge it, stretch it, and force it to form new connections. That is exactly what we cover in the next chapter. Focused reading and learning something new. These are the activities that trigger neuroplasticity on demand. You will learn why the brain treats novelty like a drug, how deep reading restructures neural pathways in ways that passive consumption cannot, and why the Feynman technique might be the single most powerful learning method ever discovered. Your brain is now properly fueled and hydrated. It is time to put it to work. Chapter 4. The Learning Accelerators. Focused reading and acquiring new skills. The average adult reads at 250 words per minute, but retains only 10% of what they read. That means for every hour you spend reading, you walk away with approximately 6 minutes of actual value. The rest disappears, gone within 48 hours as if you never opened the book at all. But here is what neuroscience has revealed. The problem is not your memory. The problem is how you read. And more importantly, what you do after you read. In this chapter, you're going to learn 2 activities that directly upgrade your brain's ability to learn, retain, and apply new information. Focused reading and skill acquisition. These are not passive activities. They are neuroplasticity triggers. When done correctly, they physically rewire your brain in ways that compound over time. Let us start with reading, because what most people call reading is not actually reading at all. When you scroll through social media, you are reading words. When you skim through emails, you are reading words. When you glance at headlines and summaries, you are reading words. But none of this is the kind of reading that changes your brain. There is a fundamental difference between shallow reading and deep reading, and that difference shows up on brain scans. A 2009 study from Stanford University used functional MRI imaging to compare brain activity during casual reading versus focused literary reading. The researchers, led by Dr. Natalie Phillips, found that deep reading activated regions across the entire brain, including areas responsible for vision, language, memory, and even physical sensation. Shallow reading activated only basic language processing areas. Deep reading is a full brain workout. Shallow reading is barely a warm-up. But here's the part that matters most. Deep reading activates the prefrontal cortex in a sustained way that builds what neuroscientists call cognitive reserve. Cognitive reserve is your brain's backup capacity. It is the neural infrastructure that protects you against age-related decline, helps you solve complex problems, and allows you to think at levels that shallow thinkers cannot access. A 2013 study from Rush University Medical Center followed over 290 adults for an average of 6 years. They found that participants who engaged in cognitively stimulating activities like reading throughout their lives had a 32% slower rate of memory decline compared to those who did not. Those who read the least showed the fastest cognitive deterioration. Reading does not just add information to your brain. It structurally protects it. Now here is where most people go wrong. They read passively. They consume words without engaging with them. They finish a chapter and cannot summarize what they just learned. They read for hours and retained almost nothing. Here is what the average reader does. They read in noisy environments with constant interruptions. They check their phone every few minutes. They read at night when their brain is already exhausted. They never take notes, never pause to reflect, never test themselves on what they learned. Here is what elite learners do differently. They treat reading as a focused cognitive workout with specific protocols designed to maximize retention. The difference is staggering. Research from Washington University in St. Louis found that active reading strategies, including annotation, summarization, and self-testing, improved retention by up to 50% compared to passive reading. Same material, same time invested, dramatically different results. Here is your protocol for Activity 5, Focused Reading. First, eliminate distractions completely. Put your phone in another room. Close all browser tabs. Reading requires sustained attention, and every interruption resets your cognitive engagement to 0. Research from the University of California, Irvine shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain focus after an interruption. Even a 2-second glance at a notification breaks the spell. Second, Read in the morning when your prefrontal cortex is freshest. Your brain's executive functions peak within the first few hours after waking. This is when complex comprehension is easiest. Reading at night, when your brain is depleted, reduces both comprehension and retention. Third, read actively. Stop at the end of each section and summarize what you just learned in your own words. This forces your brain to process information at a deeper level. Write in the margins. Ask questions. Argue with the author. Transform reading from consumption into conversation. Fourth, use spaced repetition. The forgetting curve, discovered by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus in 1885, shows that we forget approximately 70% of new information within 24 hours unless we actively review it. But brief reviews at strategic intervals, 1 day later, 1 week later, 1 month later, can push retention above 90% permanently. Fifth, limit your sessions to focused blocks of 25 to 50 minutes. Deep reading is cognitively demanding. Pushing past the point of fatigue reduces retention and builds negative associations with reading itself. Short, intense sessions beat long, exhausted ones every time. Now let us move to the second activity in this chapter, learning something new, because this is where neuroplasticity becomes truly powerful. Your brain has approximately 86 billion neurons. Each neuron can form thousands of connections with other neurons, creating a network of unfathomable complexity. But here is what determines whether that network grows or shrinks. Novelty. When you learn something new, your brain is forced to create new neural pathways. Existing connections get strengthened. Dormant regions get activated. Neurochemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine flood the system, enhancing attention and encoding. A 2013 study from the University of Texas at Dallas put this to the test. Researchers assigned adults aged 60 to 90 to different activities for 15 hours per week over 3 months. One group learned quilting. Another group learned digital photography. A control group engaged in familiar activities like watching movies or doing simple puzzles. The results were remarkable. The groups that learned new, complex skills showed significant improvements in memory function. The control group showed none. But here is the critical finding. Only the participants who engaged in productive, challenging learning, the quilters and photographers, showed actual structural changes in their brains. Passive activities, no matter how enjoyable, produced no cognitive enhancement. Your brain does not grow from doing what it already knows how to do. It grows from struggle, from challenge, from the productive discomfort of not knowing. This is why watching documentaries does not make you smarter. It feels like learning. It creates the illusion of knowledge. But passive consumption does not trigger the neural mechanisms that build new capacity. Here is what the average person does. They stay in their comfort zone. They repeat familiar activities. They avoid challenges because challenges feel uncomfortable. They tell themselves they are too old to learn new things, too busy, too set in their ways. And year by year, their cognitive capacity shrinks because the brain treats unused pathways as ways to be pruned away. Here is what elite performers do differently. They deliberately seek discomfort. They schedule time each week to learn skills they do not yet have. They understand that the struggle itself is the stimulus. The confusion, the frustration, the feeling of being a beginner, these are not obstacles to learning. They are the learning. A 2018 study from Columbia University found that adults who consistently engaged in novel skill acquisition had 23% greater gray matter volume in learning-related brain regions compared to those who did not. 23% more brain tissue. Not from genetics, from behavior. Here is your protocol for Activity 6, learning something new. First, choose a skill that is genuinely challenging. It should require effort, not just time. Learning a new language, a musical instrument, a complex software program, or a physical skill like dancing or martial arts all qualify. The key is that it must push you beyond what you currently know how to do. Second, commit to at least 30 minutes of deliberate practice 3 times per week. Deliberate practice is not casual repetition. It is focused work on the specific areas where you struggle most. Research from Florida State University by Dr. Anders Ericsson shows that deliberate practice is the single most important factor in skill acquisition across every domain studied. Third, embrace the discomfort. When learning feels hard, that is the signal that neuroplasticity is happening. When it feels easy, you have stopped growing. Seek the edge of your ability and stay there. That is where the magic happens. Fourth, track your progress. The brain responds to evidence of improvement with dopamine release, which reinforces the behavior and makes you more likely to continue. Keep a learning journal. Record small wins. Celebrate progress, not just outcomes. Now let me show you the compounding effect. When you combine focused reading with new skill acquisition, something powerful happens. The reading builds your cognitive reserve and fills your brain with raw material, concepts, frameworks, and knowledge. The skill practice forces your brain to use that material, creating new pathways and strengthening the connections between ideas. Together, they create a learning flywheel that accelerates over time. The more you read, the more context you have for new skills. The more skills you develop, the more you can apply what you read. Each activity amplifies the other. After 90 days of consistent practice, you will notice that you learn faster than before. New concepts click more quickly. Complex material feels less overwhelming. Your brain has become more efficient at the process of learning itself. But there is a limit to how much cognitive work you can do without rest. And this is where most ambitious people sabotage themselves. They push and push without ever giving their brain time to consolidate, recover, and reset. In the next chapter, we address this directly. Meditation and strategic breaks. You will learn why the brain's default mode network is essential for creativity and problem solving. Why doing nothing is sometimes the most productive thing you can do, and the specific protocols that elite performers use to recover cognitive energy without wasting time. Your brain is now being built through movement, sleep, nutrition, hydration, and active learning. Now it is time to learn the art of strategic recovery. Chapter 5. The Recovery Advantage. Meditation and strategic breaks. The most productive thing you can do right now might be nothing at all. That sounds like a contradiction. You have been told your entire life that success comes from more effort, more hours, more hustle. But neuroscience has revealed something that changes everything. Your brain does its most important work when you stop working. And here is the data that proves it. A 2010 study from Harvard University found that humans spend approximately 47% of their waking hours with their minds wandering. Most people assume this is wasted time. The researchers discovered the opposite. Mind wandering activates the default mode network, a system of brain regions that becomes highly active when you are not focused on external tasks. The default mode network is where your brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, makes creative connections, and plans for the future. It is where insights emerge, where problems you have been struggling with suddenly resolve themselves, where the pieces of your life come together into coherent meaning. When you never allow your brain to rest, you never activate this network. You rob yourself of the very processing time your brain needs to turn information into wisdom. In this chapter, you will learn two activities that most ambitious people neglect: meditation and strategic breaks. These are not luxuries for people with extra time. They are essential cognitive tools that separate sustainable high performers from people who burn out and break down. Let us start with meditation, because the science on this has become impossible to ignore. For decades, meditation was dismissed as mystical nonsense, something for monks and hippies, not serious professionals. Then neuroscientists started putting meditators into brain scanners. What they found shocked the scientific community. A 2011 study from Harvard Medical School, led by Dr. Sarah Lazar, examined the brains of people who meditated regularly compared to those who did not. The meditators showed measurably thicker gray matter in regions associated with self-awareness, compassion, and introspection. More remarkably, they showed increased density in the hippocampus, the memory center, and decreased density in the amygdala, the brain's fear and stress center. Meditation literally restructures the brain. More memory capacity, less anxiety, measurable, physical, real. But here is what happened next. Dr. Lazar wanted to know if these differences were caused by meditation or if people with certain brain structures were simply more likely to meditate. So she designed a follow-up study. She took people who had never meditated before and put them through an 8-week mindfulness program. Just 8 weeks. An average of 27 minutes of practice per day. Then she scanned their brains again. The results were extraordinary. After only 8 weeks, participants showed significant increases in gray matter density in the hippocampus, posterior cingulate cortex, and temporoparietal junction. They showed significant decreases in amygdala density. Their brains had physically changed in exactly the ways observed in long-term meditators. 8 weeks, 27 minutes a day. Structural brain transformation. A 2014 meta-analysis published in JAMA Internal Medicine reviewed 47 studies involving over 3,000 participants. The researchers found that meditation programs produced moderate improvements in anxiety, depression, and pain, comparable to the effects of antidepressant medications, but without the side effects. And cognitive benefits extend beyond emotional regulation. A 2018 study from Trinity College Dublin found that focused attention meditation directly affected levels of noradrenaline, a neurotransmitter that influences attention and focus. Participants who meditated showed better attentional control and more stable focus during demanding cognitive tasks. Here is what the average professional does. They tell themselves they do not have time to meditate. They dismiss it as sitting around doing nothing. They stay in constant stimulation mode, moving from task to task, screen to screen, meeting to meeting, never giving their brain a moment of true rest. And they wonder why they feel anxious, scattered, and mentally exhausted. Here is what elite performers do differently. They schedule meditation like they schedule important meetings. They understand that 20 minutes of mental stillness is not 20 minutes lost. It is 20 minutes invested in the hardware that runs their entire life. The list of high-profile meditators reads like a who's who of peak performance. Ray Dalio, founder of the world's largest hedge fund, has meditated twice daily for over 50 years. Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce, practices meditation regularly and has installed meditation rooms throughout his company. Oprah Winfrey, Ariana Huffington, and Jack Dorsey all credit meditation as foundational to their success. These are not people with extra time. These are some of the busiest people on the planet. They meditate because they cannot afford not to. Here is your protocol for Activity 7, meditation. Start with 10 minutes per day. That is enough to begin rewiring your brain without feeling overwhelming. Sit in a comfortable position with your spine straight. Close your eyes. Focus your attention on your breath. When your mind wanders, and it will, gently return your attention to your breath. That is the entire practice. The return is where the magic happens. Every time you notice your mind has wandered and bring it back, you are strengthening the neural circuits responsible for attention and self-regulation. You are doing a rep for your prefrontal cortex. Practice at the same time each day to build the habit. Morning works best for most people because it sets a calm, focused tone for the day. But any consistent time is better than no consistent time. After 2 weeks, increase to 15 minutes. After 1 month, aim for 20 minutes. Research suggests that the benefits of meditation scale with duration up to approximately 45 minutes, after which returns diminish. Now let us talk about strategic breaks. Because this is where most knowledge workers are bleeding cognitive performance without realizing it. Your brain operates in cycles. Approximately 90 minutes of high-focus work, followed by a natural dip in alertness and concentration. This is called the ultradian rhythm, and it is hardwired into your biology. You cannot override it any more than you can override the need to sleep. A 2008 study from the University of Illinois found that prolonged attention to a single task actually decreases performance over time. The brain habituates to constant stimulation and becomes less responsive. But brief breaks, even just a few minutes, reset this habituation and restore full attentional capacity. Here is the counterintuitive finding. Taking breaks makes you more productive, not less. The study showed that participants who took 2 brief breaks during a 50-minute task maintained consistent performance throughout. Participants who worked straight through showed significant performance decline by the end. Same time invested. Dramatically different results. But not all breaks are equal. Checking social media is not a break. Scrolling through email is not a break. These activities keep your brain in stimulation mode, preventing the recovery you need. A true break requires disengagement from cognitive demand. Here is what the average professional does. They power through for hours without stopping. They eat lunch at their desk while working. They take breaks that involve more screens and more information. They end the day feeling drained and wonder why they cannot think clearly anymore. Here is what elite performers do differently. They structure their day around ultradian rhythms. They work in focused blocks of 90 minutes or less, followed by deliberate recovery periods. They understand that pushing through fatigue does not demonstrate strength. It demonstrates ignorance of how the brain actually works. Here is your protocol for Activity 8, Strategic Breaks. First, work in blocks of no more than 90 minutes of focused effort. Set a timer if necessary. When the timer goes off, stop. Even if you feel like you could keep going, stop. You are not stopping because you are tired. You are stopping to prevent tiredness from accumulating. Second, take breaks of 10 to 20 minutes between focus blocks. During these breaks, disengage from screens completely. Stand up. Move your body. Go outside if possible. Natural light and movement accelerate cognitive recovery. Third, use your breaks for activities that activate the default mode network. Let your mind wander. Do not fill every moment with input. Stare out a window. Take a walk without your phone. Allow your brain to process without direction. Fourth, take one longer break of 30 to 60 minutes in the middle of your day. This is not laziness. This is strategic recovery. A 2019 study from the Drogium Group found that the highest performing employees worked an average of 52 minutes followed by 17-minute breaks. They worked fewer total hours but accomplished more. Now let me show you how these two activities work together. Meditation trains your brain to disengage from the constant chatter of thoughts and stimulation. It builds the neural infrastructure for focus and recovery. Strategic breaks apply that training throughout your day, giving your brain regular opportunities to consolidate, recover, and reset. Together, they create a sustainable rhythm of performance and recovery. You work hard during focus blocks because you know recovery is coming. You recover fully during breaks because you have trained your brain to let go. After 30 days of consistent practice, you will notice something remarkable. The quality of your thinking improves. Ideas come more easily. Problems that used to frustrate you resolve themselves during breaks. You accomplish more in less time because you are working with your brain instead of against it. But even a well-rested, well-trained brain does not operate in isolation. Humans are social creatures. Our brains evolved in tribes, not cubicles. And some of the most powerful cognitive benefits come from activities that might surprise you. In the next chapter, we explore social connection and teaching others. You will learn why loneliness is as damaging to the brain as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, how social interaction activates neural networks that solitary activities cannot reach, and why explaining concepts to others might be the single most effective learning technique ever discovered. Your brain is now building, learning, and recovering. It is time to connect. Chapter 6: The Social Brain, Connection and Teaching Others. Loneliness kills brain cells. That is not a metaphor. That is not an exaggeration. A 2015 study from Brigham Young University analyzed data from over 3 million people and found that social isolation increased the risk of premature death by 26%. The researchers concluded that loneliness is as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. But here is the part that affects you directly. The damage does not wait until the end of your life. It starts in your brain, right now, every day you spend disconnected. A 2012 study from Rush University Medical Center followed over 800 older adults for 4 years. They found that the loneliest participants experienced cognitive decline at a rate 50% faster than those with strong social connections. 50% faster. The socially isolated did not just feel worse. They thought worse. In this chapter, you will learn 2 activities that leverage your brain's deeply social architecture: connection with others and teaching what you know. These are not soft skills. They are neurological necessities. And most modern professionals are dangerously deficient in both. Let us start with why your brain needs social connection at a biological level. Humans evolved in small tribal groups where survival depended on cooperation. Your brain developed specialized systems for reading faces, interpreting intentions, navigating social hierarchies, and building alliances. These systems are not optional extras. They are fundamental to how your brain operates. When you engage in meaningful social interaction, your brain releases a cascade of neurochemicals. Oxytocin promotes bonding and reduces stress. Dopamine rewards connection and motivates future interaction. Serotonin stabilizes mood and enhances well-being. Endorphins reduce pain and create feelings of pleasure. This neurochemical cocktail does more than make you feel good. It actively supports cognitive function. A 2016 study from the University of Michigan found that just 10 minutes of social conversation improved executive function and working memory performance. Participants who chatted with another person before taking cognitive tests outperformed those who spent the same time alone. 10 minutes. Measurable cognitive enhancement. The researchers hypothesized that social interaction requires rapid processing of complex information, reading facial expressions, tracking conversational threads, anticipating responses, adjusting tone and content in real time. This mental workout activates and strengthens the same neural networks used in problem solving and strategic thinking. But here's what makes this finding even more significant. A 2011 study from the Harvard School of Public Health followed over 16,000 adults for 6 years. They found that socially active participants had the slowest rates of memory decline. The most socially connected individuals retain memory function at levels comparable to people 10 years younger. Social connection does not just boost immediate performance. It protects long-term cognitive health. Now here is the problem for modern knowledge workers. The average professional spends most of their day staring at screens. They communicate through email and messaging apps. They work remotely or in open offices where meaningful conversation is rare. They come home exhausted and scroll through social media, which creates the illusion of connection without any of the neurological benefits. A 2018 study from the University of Pennsylvania found that limiting social media use to 30 minutes per day significantly reduced feelings of loneliness and depression. The more time people spent on social media, the lonelier they felt. Digital connection is not just inadequate. It may be making things worse. Here is what the average professional does. They maintain shallow connections with many people through digital channels. They have hundreds of followers, but no one they can call at midnight. They substitute likes and comments for real conversation and wonder why they feel increasingly isolated despite being constantly connected. Here is what elite performers do differently. They prioritize depth over breadth. They maintain a small circle of meaningful relationships and invest time in face-to-face interaction. They understand that social connection is not a distraction from work. It is fuel for it. Here is your protocol for Activity 9, Social Connection. First, schedule at least 3 meaningful social interactions per week. Meaningful means face-to-face or voice-to-voice, not text-based. It means conversations that go beyond surface-level exchange. It means genuine engagement with another human being. Second, prioritize quality over quantity. Research from Oxford University's Robin Dunbar shows that humans can maintain approximately 150 casual relationships, but only about 5 close relationships at any given time. Focus your energy on deepening your core connections rather than expanding your network. Third, practice active listening. Put away your phone. Make eye contact. Ask follow-up questions. Show genuine curiosity about the other person's experience. A 2014 study from Harvard found that talking about ourselves activates the brain's reward centers. Letting others talk and truly listening creates deep bonds and memorable positive experiences. Fourth, join groups built around shared activities. Book clubs, sports teams, volunteer organizations, hobby groups. These provide regular, structured opportunities for connection without the awkwardness of manufacturing social occasions from scratch. Now let us move to the second activity in this chapter, teaching others, because this might be the most powerful learning technique you have never used. In the 1960s, a physicist named Richard Feynman developed a learning method so effective that it is now taught at universities worldwide. The method is simple. If you want to truly understand something, try to explain it to someone else as if they were a complete beginner. The reason this works is neurological. When you learn something passively, you create weak neural connections. The information exists in your brain, but it is loosely organized and easily forgotten. When you teach that information to someone else, you are forced to organize it coherently, identify gaps in your understanding, simplify complex concepts, and retrieve the information actively. Each of these steps strengthens and multiplies neural connections. A 2014 study from Washington University in St. Louis tested this directly. Participants were divided into two groups. Both groups studied the same material. One group was told they would be tested on it. The other group was told they would have to teach it to someone else. The teaching group outperformed the testing group significantly, even though they never actually taught anyone. Simply expecting to teach changed how they learned. They organized information more effectively, focused on key concepts, and created stronger memory traces. But the effects are even more powerful when you actually do teach. A 2018 study from the University of California, Los Angeles found that peer teaching improved retention by up to 90% compared to passive review. 90%. The act of explaining concepts to another person creates what researchers call the protégé effect. Your brain works harder because someone else is depending on you. Here is what the average professional does. They consume information endlessly. They read books, take courses, watch videos, and attend seminars. They accumulate knowledge but rarely consolidate it. They know a lot of things at a shallow level but have mastered almost nothing. Here is what elite performers do differently. They teach constantly. They explain concepts to colleagues, write about what they are learning, mentor junior team members, and give presentations whenever possible. They understand that teaching is not something you do after you master a subject. Teaching is how you master it. Here is your protocol for Activity 10, Teaching Others. First, after learning something new, explain it to someone else within 24 hours. This could be a colleague, a friend, a family member, or even an imaginary student. The act of explanation forces consolidation. Second, write summaries in your own words. Do not copy or highlight. Translate what you learned into language you would use to explain it to a 12-year-old. If you cannot simplify it, you do not truly understand it. Third, look for teaching opportunities in your daily work. Offer to onboard new team members. Volunteer to present at meetings. Start a lunch and learn session on a topic you want to master. Create the social pressure that makes your brain take learning seriously. Fourth, ask for questions. The hardest part of teaching is handling unexpected questions. When someone asks something you cannot answer, you discover the gaps in your understanding. These gaps become your roadmap for deeper learning. Now let me show you how connection and teaching amplify each other. Social connection provides the audience for teaching. Teaching provides the substance for meaningful connection. When you teach someone, you create value for them. They feel grateful. The relationship deepens. They may teach you something in return. A cycle of mutual growth begins. A 2019 study from the University of Cambridge found that adults who regularly mentored others showed higher levels of life satisfaction, lower rates of depression, and better cognitive function than those who did not. Giving knowledge away does not deplete you. It enriches you. After 30 days of prioritizing connection and teaching, you will notice changes that go beyond cognition. You will feel less isolated, more engaged with your work, more confident in your knowledge. You will have deeper relationships and stronger expertise, all from activities that cost nothing but attention. But there are still two activities that can accelerate everything you have learned so far. Activities that work directly on your neurochemistry to produce states of heightened focus, enhanced mood, and increased motivation. In the next chapter, we explore cold exposure and journaling. You will learn why a 2-minute cold shower can increase dopamine by 250%, how writing restructures traumatic memories and reduces their emotional charge, and the specific protocols that transform these simple activities into precision cognitive tools. Your brain is connected and teaching. Now it is time to optimize at the chemical level. Chapter 7. The neurochemical edge, cold exposure and reflective journaling. A 2-minute cold shower can increase your dopamine levels by 250%. That is not a typo. 250%. For comparison, cocaine increases dopamine by approximately 250%. The difference is that cold exposure achieves this effect naturally, safely, and with benefits that last for hours instead of a destructive crash. This single data point, from a 2000 study published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology, has sparked a revolution in performance optimization. Elite athletes, Fortune 500 executives, and special forces operators have all incorporated cold exposure into their daily routines. Not because it feels good. It does not. Because it works. In this chapter, you will learn the final 2 activities in your brain optimization system: cold exposure and reflective journaling. These activities work at the deepest level of brain function, directly modulating the neurochemicals that control mood, motivation, focus, and memory consolidation. Let us start with cold exposure, because the science here is extraordinary. When cold water hits your skin, your body initiates an immediate stress response. Blood vessels constrict, heart rate increases, breathing accelerates. Your sympathetic nervous system activates, flooding your bloodstream with norepinephrine and dopamine. Norepinephrine is the alertness neurotransmitter. It sharpens focus, increases vigilance, and enhances attention to detail. Dopamine is the motivation neurotransmitter. It drives goal-directed behavior, creates feelings of reward, and sustains effort over time. The 2000 study measured these effects precisely. Participants who immersed themselves in cold water at 14 degrees Celsius for just a few minutes showed norepinephrine increases of 200 to 300% and dopamine increases of 250%. These elevated levels persisted for hours after the exposure ended. But here is what makes cold exposure different from other dopamine triggers. When you get dopamine from social media, junk food, or other artificial stimulation, you experience a spike followed by a crash. Your baseline dopamine drops below where it started. You feel worse than before, which drives you to seek more stimulation. This is the cycle of addiction. Cold exposure works differently. The dopamine increase is gradual and sustained. There is no crash. Your baseline does not drop. Instead, research suggests that regular cold exposure may actually elevate your baseline dopamine over time, making you more motivated and focused even when you are not in the cold. A 2021 review published in the International Journal of Circumpolar Health examined the cumulative effects of cold water immersion. The researchers found that regular practitioners showed improved mood regulation, reduced inflammation, enhanced immune function, and increased stress resilience. The brain adapts to the controlled stress of cold exposure by becoming more resilient to all forms of stress. This is hormesis in action. Small doses of stress that make you stronger instead of weaker. Now here is where this connects to cognitive performance. A 2014 study from the Czech Republic found that young men who took cold showers regularly for 6 weeks showed significant improvements in mood and reductions in tension compared to a control group. They reported feeling more alert, more energetic, and more capable of handling daily challenges. A separate study from the Netherlands, published in PLOS One in 2016, found that participants who ended their daily showers with 30 to 90 seconds of cold water reported 29% fewer sick days at work. But they also reported something unexpected: increased energy levels and improved mental clarity that persisted throughout the day. Here is what the average person does. They avoid discomfort at all costs. They take warm showers, stay in climate-controlled environments, and never expose their body to temperatures outside the comfort zone. They maintain a stable, unchallenged nervous system that slowly loses its capacity to respond to any form of stress. Here is what elite performers do differently. They seek controlled discomfort deliberately. They understand that the temporary unpleasantness of cold exposure is an investment in neurochemical optimization. They trade 2 minutes of discomfort for hours of enhanced focus, motivation, and mood. Here is your protocol for Activity 11, cold exposure. Start gradually. End your regular shower with 15 seconds of cold water. Not lukewarm, Cold as your shower can produce. Focus on your breathing. The initial shock will make you want to gasp. Breathe slowly and deliberately through the discomfort. Each week, add 15 seconds until you reach 2 minutes. 2 minutes of cold exposure is sufficient to trigger the full neurochemical response. More is not necessarily better. The timing matters. Cold exposure in the morning amplifies its benefits by aligning with your natural cortisol rhythm and setting an energized tone for the day. Avoid cold exposure within 4 hours of sleep, as the increased alertness can interfere with falling asleep. If you want to accelerate results, consider cold immersion instead of cold showers. A cold plunge, ice bath, or natural cold water body produces more intense effects. Water at 10 to 15 degrees Celsius for 2 to 3 minutes is the sweet spot identified by most research. The key is consistency. The benefits of cold exposure compound over time. Daily practice for 30 days will produce noticeable changes in baseline mood, energy, and stress resilience. Now let us move to the final activity in your brain optimization system: reflective journaling. Because what happens in your mind when the day ends determines what your brain becomes tomorrow. Most people let their thoughts run on autopilot. They experience events, have emotional reactions, and move on without ever processing what happened. Their brains accumulate unprocessed experiences like a hard drive filling with unfiled documents. Eventually, the system slows down. Journaling interrupts this pattern. When you write about your experiences, you activate a specific form of cognitive processing that transforms raw experience into organized memory. A landmark study from the University of Texas at Austin, led by Dr. James Pennybaker in 1986, demonstrated this effect. Participants who wrote about emotional experiences for just 15 minutes a day showed significant improvements in physical health, psychological well-being, and immune function compared to those who wrote about superficial topics. But the cognitive effects were equally striking. Follow-up research found that expressive writing improved working memory capacity. A 2001 study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology showed that participants who wrote about negative experiences freed up cognitive resources that had been consumed by suppressing and avoiding those thoughts. Their brains literally had more capacity available for other tasks. Here is the mechanism. Unprocessed experiences, especially negative ones, occupy mental bandwidth. Your brain keeps returning to them, trying to make sense of what happened, even when you are consciously focused on something else. This background processing drains cognitive resources. Writing forces organization. When you put experiences into words, you create a narrative structure. You identify causes and effects. You extract meaning. Once the experience is processed and stored as a coherent memory, your brain can release it. The background processing stops. Resources become available. A 2013 study from UCLA found that labeling emotions through writing reduced activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. Simply putting feelings into words diminished their intensity. The act of writing transformed overwhelming emotions into manageable information. But journaling does more than process the past. It shapes the future. A 2015 study from Dominican University found that participants who wrote down their goals were 42% more likely to achieve them than those who simply thought about their goals. Writing activates different neural circuits than thinking. It creates stronger commitment, clearer intention, and better planning. Here is what the average person does. They never reflect systematically. They repeat the same mistakes because they never analyze what went wrong. They forget insights because they never record them. They drift through life reactively, never taking time to process where they have been or clarify where they are going. Here is what elite performers do differently. They end each day with deliberate reflection. They write about what happened, what they learned, and what they will do differently. They treat their journal as a cognitive processing system that transforms raw experience into actionable wisdom. Here is your protocol for Activity 12, reflective journaling. First, set aside 10 to 15 minutes at the end of each day. This is non-negotiable time for cognitive maintenance. Just as you brush your teeth before bed, you process your day before sleep. Second, write freely without editing. Do not worry about grammar, spelling, or making sense. The goal is to externalize your thoughts, not to create literature. Let whatever is in your mind flow onto the page. Third, use prompts to guide reflection. What happened today that mattered? What did I learn? What am I grateful for? What would I do differently? What is my intention for tomorrow? These questions direct your processing toward useful ends. Fourth, review periodically. Once per week, read through your recent entries. You will notice patterns you missed in the moment. You will see progress you had forgotten. You will extract insights that only become visible across multiple days. Now let me show you how cold exposure and journaling work together. Cold exposure optimizes your neurochemistry in the morning, setting you up for a day of enhanced focus, motivation, and resilience. Journaling processes your experiences at night, consolidating what you learned and clearing cognitive space for tomorrow. Together, they create a daily cycle of optimization. Wake, challenge, perform, reflect, consolidate, sleep, repeat. Each day builds on the last. Each week compounds the gains of the week before. After 30 days of consistent practice, you will operate at a neurochemical level that your current self would not recognize. Higher baseline dopamine, greater stress resilience, more cognitive capacity, clearer thinking, better mood. You now have all 12 activities, but knowing them is not enough. The power lies in integration, in building a system that incorporates all 12 into a sustainable daily practice. That is exactly what we cover in the next chapter, the 30-day brain transformation protocol. You will learn how to stack these activities efficiently, which combinations produce synergistic effects, and how to build habits that stick without relying on willpower. Your brain has been given the blueprint. Now it is time to build. Chapter 8. The 30-day brain transformation protocol. Knowing what to do means nothing if you never do it. 92% of people who set goals never achieve them. That statistic comes from a University of Scranton study that tracked New Year's resolutions over 2 years. The problem was not information. Everyone knew what they should do. The problem was implementation. They had no system for turning knowledge into action. You now have 12 brain-boosting activities backed by decades of neuroscience research. But information without implementation is entertainment. It makes you feel productive without producing results. This chapter changes that. You are about to receive a complete 30-day protocol that transforms these 12 activities from concepts you understand into habits you perform automatically. By day 30, you will not need willpower. The system will run itself. Let us begin with the architecture of habit formation. In 2009, researchers at University College London conducted a study that changed how we understand habit building. Dr. Philippa Lally and her team tracked 96 participants as they attempted to form new habits. They measured how long it took for behaviors to become automatic. The average was 66 days. But here is the part most people miss. The range varied from 18 to 254 days, depending on the complexity of the habit. Simple habits formed quickly. Complex habits took longer. This finding reveals the strategy. Do not try to implement all 12 activities at once. You will overwhelm your cognitive resources and fail at everything. Instead, layer habits strategically, starting with the simplest and building toward the complex. Here is your 30-day protocol, divided into 3 phases. Phase 1 covers days 1 through 10. This is the foundation phase. You will establish the 3 non-negotiable habits that everything else depends on. During Phase 1, focus exclusively on sleep, hydration, and movement. These require minimal cognitive effort, but produce maximum foundational impact. Each morning, drink 16 ounces of water before consuming anything else. This takes 30 seconds and immediately begins optimizing brain function. Set a water bottle by your bed the night before so there is zero friction. Each day, move your body for at least 20 minutes. This can be a walk, a workout, or any activity that elevates your heart rate. Schedule it at the same time daily. Morning is optimal for most people, but consistency matters more than timing. Each night, go to bed and wake up at the same time, plus or minus 30 minutes. Create a 90-minute wind-down buffer before sleep with no screens. Keep your bedroom dark and cool. That is it for Phase 1. Free habits. 10 days. Do not add anything else yet. Here is what the average person does. They get excited and try to change everything at once. They wake up on day 1 planning to meditate, exercise, eat perfectly, journal, take cold showers, read for an hour, and learn a new language. By day 3, they are exhausted. By day 7, they have quit entirely. Here is what elite performers do differently. They understand that habit formation consumes cognitive resources. They build slowly, allowing each habit to become automatic before adding the next. They prioritize consistency over intensity. Phase 2 covers days 11 through 20. This is the expansion phase. You will add 4 more activities to your foundation. On day 11, add cold exposure. End your morning shower with 30 seconds of cold water. This requires no extra time, just 30 seconds of discomfort. Increase by 15 seconds every 3 days until you reach 2 minutes by day 20. On day 13, add focused reading. Schedule 25 minutes of distraction-free reading each day. Morning or evening works, but it must be the same time daily. Put your phone in another room. Read actively with pen in hand. On day 15, add meditation. Start with 10 minutes immediately after waking, before checking any devices. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. When your mind wanders, return to the breath. That is the entire practice. On day 17, add journaling. Spend 10 minutes before bed writing freely about your day. Use the prompts from Chapter 7. What happened? What did I learn? What am I grateful for? What is my intention for tomorrow? By day 20, you have 7 habits running. Sleep, hydration, movement, cold exposure, reading, meditation, and journaling. These form the core of your brain optimization system. Here is your day 20 schedule as an example. 6 in the morning, wake at consistent time. Immediately drink 16 ounces of water. 6:15, 10 minutes of meditation. 6:30, 20 minutes of movement. 7 o'clock, shower ending with 90 seconds of cold water. 7:30, 25 minutes of focused reading during breakfast or commute. Throughout the day, continue hydrating, aiming for half your body weight in ounces. 9:30 in the evening, 10 minutes of journaling. 10 o'clock, begin wind-down protocol. 11 o'clock, sleep. This entire system adds approximately 75 minutes to your day. But the cognitive returns far exceed the time investment. You will accomplish more in your remaining waking hours than you previously accomplished in a full day of unfocused effort. Phase 3 covers days 21 through 30. This is the optimization phase. You will add the remaining 5 activities and begin stacking for synergistic effects. On day 21, add strategic breaks. Set a timer for 90 minutes during work. When it rings, take a 10 to 15-minute break with no screens. Go outside if possible. Let your mind wander. On day 23, add 1 social connection activity. Schedule a face-to-face or voice conversation with someone you care about. Put it in your calendar like any other appointment. On day 25, add brain-boosting nutrition. Incorporate omega-3s through fatty fish or supplementation. Add 2 additional servings of colorful vegetables to your daily intake. Replace 1 processed snack with berries or nuts. On day 27, add teaching. Find 1 opportunity to explain something you have learned to another person. This could be a colleague, friend, or family member. It could be writing a summary that others might read. On day 29, add learning something new. Commit to 30 minutes, 3 times per week, of deliberate practice on a challenging new skill. Schedule these sessions like appointments. By day 30, all 12 activities are integrated into your daily and weekly rhythm. Now let me show you the stacking strategies that multiply effectiveness. Certain activities produce synergistic effects when combined. Morning stacking works like this. Wake, hydrate, meditate, move, cold exposure, read. This sequence optimizes your neurochemistry for the day ahead. Hydration prepares the brain. Meditation calms and focuses. Movement releases BDNF and increases blood flow. Cold exposure spikes dopamine and norepinephrine. Reading capitalizes on peak cognitive capacity. Evening stacking works like this. Final meal includes brain-boosting foods. Social connection or teaching during dinner or after. Wind down begins 90 minutes before bed. Journaling processes the day. Sleep consolidates everything. Weekly stacking distributes the more time-intensive activities. Schedule 3 skill learning sessions across the week, not consecutively. Plan social connections in advance so they actually happen. Batch deep reading sessions on weekends if weekdays are too compressed. Here is the data on why this phased approach works. A 2018 study from the British Journal of Health Psychology found that participants who added new habits one at a time were 3 times more likely to maintain them after 3 months compared to those who attempted multiple simultaneous changes. The sequential approach respects the brain's limited capacity for self-regulation. A 2020 study from Stanford University's Behavior Design Lab found that habit stacking, attaching new behaviors to existing routines, increase success rates by 40%. When you meditate immediately after your morning water, the hydration becomes a trigger for meditation. Each habit cues the next. Now let me address what to do when you miss a day. You will miss days. Life happens. Travel disrupts routines. Illness strikes. Emergencies arise. The question is not whether you will miss days. The question is what you do when you miss them. Here is the critical finding. A 2009 study from the European Journal of Social Psychology found that missing a single day had no measurable impact on long-term habit formation. Missing 2 or 3 days in a row showed minimal impact. The habit formation process was remarkably resilient to occasional lapses. What destroyed habits was not missing days. It was the psychological response to missing days. Participants who viewed a missed day as failure often abandoned the habit entirely. Participants who viewed a missed day as a temporary interruption simply resumed and continued building. Here is the rule. Never miss twice. 1 missed day is an accident. 2 missed days is the beginning of a new habit. If you miss your morning meditation, do a short session in the evening. If you miss your reading, read for just 5 minutes before bed. Maintain the streak even if the quality drops temporarily. By day 30, something remarkable will have happened. You will wake up and automatically reach for water instead of your phone. You will sit down to meditate without debating whether you feel like it. You will take cold showers and wonder why they ever seemed difficult. The activities that required willpower in week 1 will feel like natural parts of who you are. This is identity level change. You are no longer someone trying to build brain-boosting habits. You are someone who does these things. The behaviors are no longer external impositions. They are expressions of your self-concept. A 2012 study from the University of Bath found that habits account for approximately 43% of daily behaviors. By day 30, you will have replaced nearly half of your automatic behaviors with ones that actively build cognitive capacity. But the 30-day protocol is just the beginning. It establishes the system. What happens next determines whether that system produces temporary improvement or permanent transformation. In the next chapter, we examine what elite performers do differently over the long term. You will learn the specific habits that separate the cognitive 1% from everyone else. See case studies of peak performers who have sustained exceptional brain function into their 80s and 90s and understand the principles that turn short-term gains into lifetime advantages. Your 30-day foundation is set. Now it is time to see how high you can build. Chapter 9. Elite Brain Habits. What top performers do differently. Warren Buffett reads 500 pages every single day. He has done this for over 60 years. When asked about the secret to his success, he held up a stack of papers and said, "Read 500 pages like this every day. That is how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest." Buffett is 94 years old and still runs a $700 billion company. His cognitive function remains sharp enough to analyze complex financial instruments, evaluate business strategies, and make decisions that move markets. He is not an anomaly. He is an example of what happens when elite brain habits compound over decades. In this chapter, you will see inside the routines of the world's highest cognitive performers. Not motivational stories, specific habits, measurable practices, the exact behaviors that separate the cognitive 1% from everyone else. Let us start with what the research shows about exceptional cognitive aging. The MacArthur Foundation study of successful aging followed over 1,000 high-functioning older adults for more than a decade. The researchers wanted to identify what distinguished people who maintained sharp minds into their 80s and 90s from those who declined. They found three consistent factors: physical activity, cognitive engagement, social connection. The participants who maintained all three showed minimal cognitive decline even into advanced age. Those who abandoned any one factor showed measurable deterioration. But here is what the elite performers added beyond these basics. They had systems, not just habits, but integrated systems that ensured consistency across decades. They did not rely on motivation or willpower. They built environments and routines that made cognitive optimization automatic. Let us examine specific cases. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, remained cognitively formidable until his death at age 99. His approach was systematic. He read constantly across multiple disciplines, a practice he called building a latticework of mental models. He avoided cognitive shortcuts. He actively sought information that contradicted his existing beliefs. Munger once said that he had never met a wise person who did not read all the time. But his reading was strategic. He did not consume randomly. He studied physics, biology, psychology, economics, and history, looking for principles that applied across domains. This cross-disciplinary learning created dense neural connections that single-subject experts never develop. A 2017 study from the University of Toronto confirmed this approach. Researchers found that polymaths, people with expertise across multiple domains, showed greater cognitive flexibility and creative problem-solving ability than specialists. Their brains had literally more pathways to reach solutions. Now let us look at physical optimization among elite performers. Richard Branson, founder of the Virgin Group, has said that his morning exercise routine adds 4 hours of productivity to his day. Not 4 hours of time, 4 hours of productive output. He wakes at 5 in the morning and exercises before anything else, a practice he has maintained for over 40 years. The neuroscience supports his claim. A 2019 study from the University of British Columbia found that regular aerobic exercise increased the size of the hippocampus and improved performance on tasks requiring memory and executive function. The participants who exercised showed brain scans comparable to people 10 years younger. But Branson does not just exercise. He exercises first. This timing is strategic. Morning exercise optimizes cortisol rhythm, increases BDNF production, and sets neurochemical conditions for peak performance throughout the day. Elite performers protect their morning routines because they understand the compounding impact of starting each day optimized. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund, has practiced transcendental meditation twice daily for over 50 years. He credits meditation with giving him an equanimity and centeredness that allows him to handle the extreme stress of managing over $150 billion in assets. But Dalio went further than personal practice. He built meditation into his company culture. Bridgewater provides meditation training for all employees and has meditation rooms throughout its offices. Dalio understood that cognitive optimization is not just personal, it is organizational. A 2018 study from INSEAD Business School found that companies led by executives who meditated showed higher employee satisfaction, lower turnover, and better financial performance than industry peers. The leader's cognitive state influences the entire organization. Now let us examine how elite performers approach sleep. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, has said that 8 hours of sleep is non-negotiable. Despite building one of the world's most valuable companies, he refused to sacrifice sleep for more working hours. His reasoning was purely cognitive. He said that making a small number of high-quality decisions is more important than making a large number of decisions. Bezos understood what neuroscience confirms. Sleep deprivation impairs judgment, creativity, and decision-making. A single important decision made well is worth more than dozens of decisions made poorly. Protecting sleep protects the quality of every choice you make. Arianna Huffington took this lesson further after collapsing from exhaustion in 2007. She transformed her approach to sleep and wrote a book called The Sleep Revolution. She now sleeps 8 hours nightly and has banned electronic devices from her bedroom. Her company, Thrive Global, was built entirely around the science of sustainable performance. Here is what separates these elite performers from average professionals. The average professional treats cognitive enhancement as optional, something to do when there is extra time. They sacrifice sleep for productivity, skip exercise for meetings, abandon meditation when life gets busy. They optimize sporadically, inconsistently, reactively. Elite performers treat cognitive enhancement as foundational. They protect their brain-building habits the way they protect critical business assets. They understand that their mind is the source of everything they accomplish. Every decision, every insight, every creative breakthrough flows through their cognitive capacity. Undermining that capacity undermines everything. Here is what elite performers do with social connection. Adam Grant, organizational psychologist at Wharton and one of the world's most cited researchers in his field, maintains what he calls a giving network. He deliberately helps others succeed without expecting immediate return. He makes introductions, shares opportunities, and provides guidance generously. Research from his own studies shows that givers, people who contribute to others without keeping score, achieve higher long-term success than takers or matchers. But the cognitive benefits are equally significant. Teaching and helping others activates reward circuits, reduces stress, and creates meaning, all of which support sustained cognitive performance. Grant also practices aggressive boundary setting. He batches email responses, protects deep work time, and says no to most requests. This is not contradiction. It is integration. He gives generously within protected boundaries that preserve his cognitive resources. Here is what elite performers do with continuous learning. Bill Gates takes 2 think weeks every year. For 7 days, he retreats to a cabin with no internet and no phone. He brings only books and papers. He reads, thinks, and writes without interruption. Some of Microsoft's most important strategic decisions emerged from these think weeks. Gates did not stop learning when he became successful. He accelerated. He reads approximately 50 books per year and writes detailed notes on each. He maintains a blog sharing his reading recommendations and insights. At 70 years old, he remains one of the most intellectually curious people on the planet. Elon Musk, despite running multiple companies simultaneously, dedicates time to learning new domains. When SpaceX began, he read textbooks on rocket propulsion. When Tesla launched, he studied battery chemistry and manufacturing. He does not delegate understanding. He acquires it directly. A 2016 study from Georgetown University found that executives who continued learning throughout their careers showed 40% less cognitive decline than those who stopped learning after reaching senior positions. Learning is not just about acquiring information. It is about maintaining the brain's plasticity. Now let us talk about what these patterns reveal. Every elite performer profiled has a different specific routine. Buffett reads all day. Branson exercises every morning. Dalio meditates twice daily. Bezos sleeps 8 hours. Gates takes think weeks. The specific activities vary, but the underlying principles are identical. Principle 1. They treat cognitive optimization as non-negotiable, not optional. It is not something they do when convenient. It is the foundation everything else rests upon. Principle 2. They build systems, not rely on willpower. Their environments, schedules, and routines make brain-building activities automatic. They do not debate whether to exercise. Exercise is scheduled and immovable. Principle 3. They think in decades, not days. They understand that the benefits of cognitive investment compound over time. A single day of reading means little. 60 years of reading means everything. Principle 4. They protect recovery as fiercely as performance. They sleep, take breaks, and create space for their brains to consolidate and restore. They know that sustainable excellence requires sustainable practices. Principle 5. They stay curious. They never stop learning, regardless of age or achievement. They treat their minds as gardens that require constant cultivation, not warehouses that store static inventory. These principles are not reserved for billionaires and celebrities. They are available to anyone willing to implement them. The 12 activities you have learned work for elite performers because they work for human brains. Your brain runs on the same neuroscience as Warren Buffett's. The only difference is what you do with it. But understanding elite habits is not enough. You need a vision for where these habits can take you. You need to see the future you are building, not just the practices you are implementing. In the final chapter, we address exactly this. Your new cognitive identity. You will learn how to maintain your gains for life, how to continue evolving your brain optimization system, and how to become the kind of person who naturally does what elite performers do. This is not the end. This is the beginning of who you are becoming. Chapter 10. Your new cognitive identity. You are not the same person who started this book. That is not a metaphor. It is neuroscience. The act of listening, processing, and engaging with these ideas has already begun changing the physical structure of your brain. New neural pathways are forming. New connections are strengthening. The person who finishes this chapter will have a brain that is measurably different from the person who started chapter 1. But here is what determines whether this transformation becomes permanent or fades within weeks. Identity. A 2012 study from the University of Pennsylvania examined why some people maintain new behaviors while others abandon them. The researchers, led by Dr. Angela Duckworth, found that the strongest predictor of long-term behavior change was not motivation, willpower, or even habit strength. It was identity. People who adopted new behaviors as part of who they are maintained them. People who viewed behaviors as things they were trying to do eventually stopped. This is the difference between saying I am trying to exercise more and saying I am someone who exercises. The first is a goal. The second is an identity. Goals can be abandoned when motivation fades. Identities persist because they are self-reinforcing. In this final chapter, you will learn how to transform the 12 brain-boosting activities from behaviors you perform into an identity you embody. You will understand how to maintain your gains for life, how to continue evolving your system, and how to become the kind of person for whom cognitive optimization is not something you do. It is who you are. Let us start with how identity-level change actually works. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. This concept, developed by author James Clear, captures how identity forms through accumulated evidence. When you meditate once, you have done a meditation. When you meditate for 30 days, you begin to see yourself as someone who meditates. When you meditate for a year, meditation is simply part of who you are. The same process applies to every activity in this book. Each morning you drink water before checking your phone. You cast a vote for being someone who prioritizes brain health. Each time you take a cold shower, you cast a vote for being someone who embraces discomfort for growth. Each book you read, each conversation you have, each journal entry you write, each vote accumulates into an identity. A 2014 study from Northwestern University demonstrated this mechanism directly. Researchers found that people who were told they were voters rather than asked to vote showed significantly higher turnout rates. The noun mattered more than the verb. Being a voter was more motivating than the act of voting. Apply this to your brain optimization journey. You are not someone who is trying to improve your brain. You are a cognitive optimizer. You are someone who builds their brain daily. You are someone who treats their mind as their most valuable asset and protects it accordingly. Say it out loud right now. I am someone who optimizes my brain every single day. This linguistic shift is not trivial. It rewires how you perceive yourself. And self-perception drives behavior more reliably than any external motivation. Now let us address how to maintain your gains for life. The 30-day protocol you learned in Chapter 8 establishes the system. But systems require maintenance. They require periodic review, adjustment, and recommitment. Without this maintenance, even well-established habits erode over time. Here is your maintenance protocol. Every week, conduct a 5-minute review. Ask yourself 3 questions. Which activities did I complete consistently this week? Which activities did I miss and why? What one adjustment would improve next week? This brief reflection prevents small lapses from becoming large collapses. Every month, conduct a deeper 30-minute review. Examine your energy levels, cognitive performance, and overall well-being. Notice which activities produce the most noticeable benefits for you personally. Adjust timing, duration, or sequencing based on what you observe. Your brain is unique. The optimal configuration for you may differ from general recommendations. Every quarter, reassess your goals. The activities remain constant, but your reasons for doing them may evolve. Perhaps you started to improve work performance. Perhaps now you want to extend cognitive health into old age. Perhaps you want to model brain optimization for your children. Reconnecting with your deeper motivations renews commitment. A 2017 study from the Dominican University of California found that participants who conducted weekly progress reviews were 33% more likely to achieve their goals than those who did not review. Regular reflection transforms vague intentions into concrete progress. Now let us talk about evolution. Because maintenance is not enough. Your system must grow. The brain responds to challenge. When activities become easy, they stop producing growth. This is why the 40-year meditator must meditate differently than the beginner. This is why the lifelong reader must read more challenging material than the person just starting. Here is how to evolve each category of activity. For physical movement, increase intensity or complexity over time. Add new modalities. Learn a sport. Take up martial arts or dance. Challenge your coordination, not just your cardiovascular system. For sleep, refine your understanding of your personal chronotype and optimal conditions. Experiment with different wind-down protocols. Track your sleep quality and correlate it with cognitive performance the following day. For nutrition and hydration, deepen your knowledge. Learn about emerging research on nootropics, adaptogens, and personalized nutrition. Experiment systematically and observe what works for your unique biology. For reading and learning, escalate difficulty. Read primary sources instead of summaries. Tackle subjects outside your expertise. Learn skills that seem impossible for someone like you. For meditation, explore different techniques. Try loving-kindness meditation, body scanning, or open awareness practices. Attend retreats. Work with teachers. Meditation has depths that most practitioners never explore. For social connection and teaching, expand your circle of intellectual challenge. Seek out people who are smarter than you in areas where you want to grow. Teach at higher levels of complexity. Mentor others who are earlier in their journey. For cold exposure, increase duration or decrease temperature gradually. Explore contrast therapy, alternating between cold and heat. Some practitioners advance to ice baths or winter swimming. For journaling, experiment with different frameworks. Try gratitude journals, morning pages, or structured reflection protocols. Review your journals periodically to extract patterns and insights you missed in the moment. Evolution prevents stagnation. It keeps your brain in growth mode indefinitely. Now let us address the obstacles you will face. Life will interfere with your system. This is certain. Travel, illness, family emergencies, work crises, these disruptions are not exceptions. They are the rule. The question is not whether disruption will occur, but how you respond when it does. Here is the mindset of the cognitive optimizer. Disruption is temporary. Identity is permanent. When you miss a week because of travel, you do not become someone who used to optimize their brain. You become a cognitive optimizer who is temporarily adapting to circumstances. The identity persists. The behaviors resume as soon as conditions allow. A 2015 study from the University of Bath examined habit recovery after disruption. They found that the strongest predictor of successful recovery was self-identity. Participants who identified strongly with the habit resumed quickly after disruption. Participants with weaker identification often did not resume at all. Here is the rule. After any disruption, restart within 24 hours of returning to normal circumstances. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Resume immediately, even if the first session is shorter or lower quality than usual. The resumption itself is what matters. Now let me give you a vision of where this leads. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. You have practiced these 12 activities consistently with evolution and maintenance for 60 months. What does that person look like? They wake up with natural energy, without needing caffeine to function. Their mind is clear from the first moment of consciousness. They sit for meditation not because they have to, but because they crave the stillness. They exercise because movement feels essential, not optional. They read voraciously and retain what they read. They learn new skills with surprising speed because their brain has become efficient at learning itself. They solve problems that would have paralyzed their former self. They make decisions with clarity and confidence. Their relationships are deeper because they are fully present. They teach and mentor others, which reinforces their own mastery. They handle stress with equanimity because they have trained their nervous system to recover quickly. They look at cognitive decline statistics and know those numbers do not apply to them. They have built a brain that gets stronger with age instead of weaker. They have escaped the default trajectory of mental deterioration that claims most people. This is not fantasy. This is the documented outcome for people who maintain these practices over time. A 2020 study from the Global Council on Brain Health followed adults who practiced multiple brain-building activities consistently. After 5 years, participants showed cognitive performance comparable to people 15 years younger. Their brains had not just maintained. They had reversed typical aging patterns. You now have everything you need. The 12 activities, the 30-day protocol, the maintenance and evolution strategies, the case studies proving what is possible, the identity framework that makes it sustainable. The only remaining question is what you choose to do with it. Here is the truth that separates those who transform from those who merely consume information. Transformation is a choice made not once, but daily. Every morning, you choose whether to vote for your new cognitive identity or your old patterns. Every evening, you choose whether to consolidate growth or let it slip away. No one can make this choice for you. No book, no teacher, no program can override your daily decisions. The power is entirely yours. And so is the responsibility. Here's what I know about you. You did not listen to 19,000 words by accident. You did not arrive at this final chapter because you had nothing better to do. Something in you recognized that your brain is capable of more. Something in you is ready to claim that capacity. That something is not random. It is signal. It is your potential calling you toward itself. The average person will hear these ideas and do nothing. They will nod, agree, and return to the same patterns that produce the same results they have always gotten. They will let another year pass, then another, until cognitive decline is no longer a future risk but a present reality. You are not average. You have proven that by reaching this point. Now prove it again by what you do tomorrow morning, and the morning after, and every morning for the rest of your life. Your brain is the most powerful instrument you will ever possess. It has carried you this far with minimal optimization. Imagine where it can take you when you finally give it what it needs. The 12 activities are waiting. The 30 days are waiting. Your new cognitive identity is waiting. The only question left is this: are you ready to become who you were always capable of being? Begin tomorrow. Begin today. Begin now. Your brain is ready. The question is whether you are. Bonus chapter: The Brain Emergency Toolkit, Protocols for High Stress, Low Sleep, and Crisis Situations. Everything you have learned so far assumes ideal conditions. You slept well. You had time for your morning routine. You ate proper food. You were not drowning in deadlines, battling jet lag, or operating on 4 hours of broken sleep because your child was sick or your project exploded at midnight. But here is the reality. Ideal conditions are the exception, not the rule. A 2021 survey by the American Psychological Association found that 67% of knowledge workers report chronic work overload. 44% regularly sacrifice sleep for deadlines. 38% describe their stress levels as constantly high. This means the majority of your professional life will be spent in suboptimal conditions. And if your brain optimization system only works when everything is perfect, it does not really work at all. This bonus chapter gives you something most brain books ignore completely: emergency protocols. The specific interventions you can deploy when life falls apart, when sleep disappears, when stress peaks, when you need your brain to perform despite conditions that should make performance impossible. Consider this your cognitive first aid kit. Memorize these protocols. They will save you when the regular system cannot run. Let us start with the most common emergency: sleep deprivation. You got 4 hours of sleep, maybe less. Your alarm went off, and your brain feels like it is wrapped in wet concrete. You have an important meeting in 3 hours, a presentation, a decision that cannot wait. You need to function at a high level with a brain that is operating at a severe deficit. Here is what happens neurologically when you are sleep deprived. Adenosine, the compound that creates sleep pressure, has accumulated to dangerous levels. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, is running at approximately 60% capacity. Your emotional regulation is compromised because the amygdala is overactive while the prefrontal cortex that normally restrains it is underperforming. Your working memory is reduced, your attention is fragmented, and your reaction time is slowed. This is the reality. You cannot undo sleep deprivation in the moment, but you can strategically manage your diminished resources to maximize what remains. Here is your sleep deprivation emergency protocol. Step 1. Hydrate aggressively in the first hour after waking. Sleep deprivation increases dehydration, which compounds cognitive impairment. Drink 24 ounces of water, not 16, before anything else. Add a pinch of salt for electrolyte support. A 2018 study from the Georgia Institute of Technology showed that addressing dehydration can recover up to 15% of lost cognitive function in sleep-deprived individuals. Step 2. Get bright light exposure within 30 minutes of waking. Sunlight is ideal, but a bright artificial light works if necessary. Light exposure suppresses melatonin and activates alerting systems in the brainstem. A 2019 study from Harvard Medical School found that morning light exposure improved alertness and cognitive performance in sleep-deprived participants by up to 20% compared to those who remained in dim conditions. Step 3. Take a cold shower, but make it shorter and more intense than usual. 60 to 90 seconds of the coldest water you can tolerate. This spikes norepinephrine and dopamine rapidly, creating a temporary surge of alertness that can last 2 to 3 hours. This is your neurochemical emergency boost. Step 4. Delay caffeine until 90 minutes after waking. This seems counterintuitive when you are desperate for energy. But immediately upon waking, adenosine levels are already being cleared naturally. Caffeine consumed too early blocks this natural clearance and leads to a harder crash later. Wait 90 minutes. Then consume caffeine strategically. Step 5. Front-load your most important cognitive work into the first 4 hours after waking. This is when sleep-deprived brains perform closest to normal. After 4 hours, performance degrades significantly. Do not waste your morning on email. Use it for the tasks that actually matter. Step 6. Take a 10 to 20-minute nap between 1 and 3 in the afternoon if at all possible. Research from NASA found that a 26-minute nap improved pilot performance by 34% and alertness by 54%. Set an alarm. Do not sleep longer than 20 minutes or you will enter deep sleep and wake up groggier than before. Step 7. Protect tomorrow aggressively. One night of poor sleep is recoverable. 2 consecutive nights create compounding damage. Whatever caused last night's sleep loss, solve it before tonight. Sleep debt accumulates faster than most people realize. Here is what the average person does when sleep deprived. They drink coffee immediately, skip breakfast, sit in dim indoor lighting, and try to power through with willpower. By noon, they are a cognitive disaster. By 3 in the afternoon, they are making decisions they will regret. Here is what elite performers do differently. They run an emergency protocol that strategically deploys every available intervention. They do not pretend the deficit does not exist. They manage it systematically and protect the resources they still have. Now let us address the second emergency: acute high stress. You just received terrible news. A project failed. A client is furious. Your job might be at risk. Your body has flooded with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart is racing. Your thoughts are spiraling. And you need to think clearly enough to respond effectively. High acute stress triggers the amygdala hijack. Your emotional brain takes control, and your rational brain goes partially offline. This is an evolutionary survival response, useful for escaping predators, useless for navigating complex professional situations. Here is your acute stress emergency protocol. Step 1. Execute physiological reset immediately. The fastest way to interrupt the stress response is through the body, not the mind. Use the physiological sigh. 2 short inhales through the nose followed by 1 long exhale through the mouth. Repeat 3 to 5 times. A 2023 study from Stanford University, led by Dr. Andrew Huberman, found that this breathing pattern reduced stress markers faster than any other breathing technique tested, including box breathing and meditation. Step 2. Move your body for 2 to 5 minutes. Walk briskly. Do jumping jacks. Climb stairs. Movement metabolizes stress hormones and begins restoring prefrontal cortex function. Do not sit and ruminate. Motion changes emotion. Step 3. Delay your response. Unless lives are at risk, you do not need to respond immediately. Send a holding message. I received this and will respond within 2 hours. This creates space for your rational brain to come back online. Decisions made in acute stress are almost always inferior to decisions made 30 minutes later. Step 4. Right before you respond, take 5 minutes to dump your thoughts on paper. This externalizes the mental chaos and begins organizing it. You will often discover that the situation is less catastrophic than your stress response suggests. Step 5. Reframe the threat as a challenge. A 2012 study from the University of Rochester found that participants who viewed stressful situations as challenges rather than threats showed improved cardiovascular function and cognitive performance. Say to yourself, "This is a challenge I am capable of handling." This simple reframe changes your physiological response. Step 6. Identify one concrete next action. Not the whole solution. Just one small step you can take in the next 15 minutes. Action interrupts rumination. A 2017 study from the University of California, Los Angeles found that taking even small actions during stress reduced anxiety and improved subsequent decision-making quality. Now let us address the third emergency: jet lag and travel disruption. You just flew across 6 time zones. Your circadian rhythm is completely disoriented. Your brain thinks it is 3 in the morning, but you have a meeting in 2 hours. Traditional advice says it takes 1 day per time zone to fully adjust. You do not have 6 days. You need to function now. Here is your jet lag emergency protocol. Step 1. Align immediately with local time. Do not calculate what time it is back home. That mental habit keeps your brain anchored to the old time zone. Set all devices to local time before you land. Step 2. Get sunlight exposure during local daylight hours, especially morning light at your destination. Light is the most powerful circadian signal. A 2015 study from the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine found that strategic light exposure could accelerate circadian adjustment by 40 to 50%. Step 3. Use caffeine strategically to stay awake until local bedtime. But cut off caffeine by 2 in the afternoon local time to avoid disrupting your first night of adjusted sleep. Step 4. Exercise at your destination, ideally in the morning. Physical activity helps reset circadian rhythm and reduces the cognitive fog associated with jet lag. Even 20 minutes makes a measurable difference. Step 5. Use melatonin on the first 2 nights at your destination, 30 minutes before your target local bedtime. Research from the Cochrane database shows that melatonin significantly reduces jet lag severity when taken correctly. Start with 1 to 3 milligrams. More is not better. Step 6. Stay awake until at least 9 in the evening local time on your arrival day, no matter how tired you feel. Going to bed at 4 in the afternoon extends the adjustment period dramatically. Now let us address the fourth emergency: deadline pressure and time scarcity. You have a massive deliverable due in 48 hours. There is not enough time to do it perfectly. Panic is setting in. Your instinct is to work continuously until it is done, sacrificing sleep, meals, and everything else. This instinct is wrong. It will produce worse results than a strategic approach. Here is your deadline emergency protocol. Accept imperfection early. Perfectionism under pressure paralyzes. Define the minimum viable outcome and remove everything non-essential. Work in focused 90-minute blocks with real breaks. Protect 6 hours of sleep and put deep work in the morning when your mind is sharp. If possible, use body doubling to increase focus. When brain fog hits, move for 2 minutes, hydrate, get fresh air, reset for 5 minutes, change your environment, or lower the bar briefly with simple tasks. Every high performer succeeds not by avoiding chaos, but by having a system ready the moment chaos appears. Elite performers don't wait for crisis. They prepare. They follow protocols automatically, conserving energy for execution. Use these tools when needed, return to fundamentals when possible, and begin your transformation now.